a major legal victory for the Trump administration. After the U.S. Supreme Court limits powers of lower courts, putting a pause on Trump's orders on birthright citizenship, the top court has ordered lower court judges to reconsider the scope of their orders, blocking Trump's executive order to restrict birthright citizenship. The top court justices granted a request by the Trump administration to narrow the scope of 3 nationwide injunctions, which were issued by federal judges in Maryland, Massachusetts, and Washington state. The injunction put a halt to policy enforcement while it was being litigated in court. Trump's administration has for months struggled to implement the president's policy changes due to orders from court to halt enforcement of Trump's executive orders. Trump called the verdict a giant win and accused judges in lower courts of abusing their power to override presidential policies.
Such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy.
The Supreme Court issued a 6-3 ruling led by conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who wrote in her opinion statement, and I'm quoting here, "No one disputes that the executive has a duty to follow the law, but the judiciary does not have unbridled authority to enforce this obligation. In fact, sometimes the law prohibits the judiciary from doing so." For more on this, the correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen to this.
The United States Supreme Court limited the power of the federal courts to issue nationwide injunctions stating that lower courts can only block government policies for specific parties involved. This is a strategic victory for President Trump's executive agenda. It strips key legal tools that routinely stopped his policies from taking effect nationwide. For instance, it weakens the nationwide blocks against his executive order on birthright citizenship. In response, President Trump called the decision a quote-unquote monumental victory, saying that it protects his mandate from quote activist judges and clears the way for more of his policies. Critics, including the court's liberal judges, now worry that it will restrict judicial checks on executive power and could lead to uneven application across different states, particularly regarding something as fundamental as birthright citizenship. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.